Good morning. I want to welcome everyone to the Wednesday, September 1, 2021 briefing and brief out regarding Hurricane Ida. As we all know, Hurricane Ida has left our state, but since the last time we spoke, it is now in eastern Kentucky. And as I appreciate it, we're probably looking at continued significant rainfall and flooding activities in the upper Midwest part of our country and moving on perhaps even into the Washington, D.C. area. At this time, I want to just commend our partnerships with the locals as well as our federal partners. We have a few very special guests today. We have Gail with us, who is the president and CEO of the American Red Cross. We have Administrator Criswell, who is the FEMA administrator. We're very fortunate to have her here with us today. And of course, Mac behind me to my left is going to give you an update as well. This particular storm brought damage throughout our state. It's less in terms of severity on any one specific point, and much more about the size and the scope of the storm and how the eye of the storm entered in our far southwest corner, exited our state in a far northeast corner, but yet damage was occurring throughout our state from the coastline all the way to the Tennessee state line. Where we find ourselves today is in a situation in which we still have approximately 37,000 power outages statewide. Many of those are still in the southwest part of our state, in Pike County leading the way with approximately 10,000 of those 37,000 outages in Pike County. But Walthall and Wilkinson and Emmett also primarily in the rural areas with power outages as well. This is down from a number of 136,000 at the peak. And so, again, of many, many heroes in these large disasters, but our linemen and linewomen are certainly at the very top of those, because they're the ones that get out in the storms and actually get power back restored. And given the heat advisories that we're having and the 100-degree plus temperatures, getting power back to the homes where air conditioning can get back on is certainly very, very important. We are seeing that all bulk petroleum facilities are back online, which basically means that the Chevron facilities at Pascagoula and at Collins are back functioning. We are seeing significant increases in our neighbors to the west, our friends from Louisiana, coming over and getting gasoline, which is causing some excess traffic on the coast and also longer lines for fuel along the coastline. So I encourage everyone to be patient. That's something that we are going to continue to deal with. With our ports, both Pascagoula and Gulfport are back to normal status, and we anticipate that Bienville, which has been Zulu up until this morning, will be going to normal status very, very soon. MDOT crews are out and about and doing damage assessments as we speak. In terms of shelters, we peaked at 28 shelters open with over 600 occupants during the storm. Currently, we have 3 shelters open with approximately 44 occupants. Now, we know as we look at what's happening in the city of New Orleans and throughout Louisiana that there may be needs going forward with power outages that could last for some period of time into the future. And so we are coordinating with our partners in Louisiana, with the American Red Cross, as to what our plan should be to house in shelters any Louisiana residents that need it. And so we don't have final decisions made on that yet, but we're certainly looking at those as we speak. We also are, as I mentioned a couple of days ago, as soon as we could feel comfortable, we would offer assistance to the state of Louisiana. I've spoken with Governor Edwards over the last several days. We are deploying some resources at their request, including military police company from the Mississippi National Guard, and a engineering company, both of which were originally and initially staged for Mississippi's response. They have been requested through our EMAC system to move to Louisiana, and we have approved that. In addition, we have significant numbers of firefighters, primarily from the Fire Academy, as well as some Central Mississippi fire departments that have deployed already. And we have also sent some teams from the coast into Louisiana. With respect to commodities that we have already distributed, as you know, we have a State Emergency and Logistics Operations Center. We have distributed over 200,000 sandbags, 52 pallets of bottled water, 1 pallet of MREs, 140 kW generators. We have distributed 3 at this time. We have also distributed 9 pallets of shelter PPE packs and over 600 tarps to Mississippians, and will continue to do so. At this time, on Saturday, Sunday, and Monday, we were talking about preparation, deploying assets, making sure that we were properly deployed to respond. We are now in Mississippi moving from the respond phase into the recovery phase, and we will continue to do that. I do want you to know, I think this is important, if you will help us get this information out. We do have a Hurricane Ida assistance line here in the state of Mississippi. If you are a Mississippi resident, please call 1-888-574-3583, Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 7 p.m., or you can go to our Mississippi Emergency Management website, which is msema.org. Also, if you are a Louisiana resident and you are in Mississippi and you are currently sheltering out of state, you can reach Louisiana 211 by dialing 1-800-755-5175. If you are a Louisiana resident and you need to apply for individual assistance through FEMA, you may do so by calling 1-800-621-3362 or by visiting disasterassistance.gov. I'm going to read those numbers one more time to make sure everyone gets them accurately. If you are a Mississippi resident and you need assistance from Hurricane Ida, our number is 1-888-574-3583. If you are a Louisiana resident, you can reach Louisiana 211 by dialing 1-800-755-5175. If you are a Louisiana resident that needs to apply for individual assistance through FEMA, that number is 1-800-621-3362, or by visiting disasterassistance.gov. For as long as we have been dealing with the natural disasters that come our way, we have dealt with a federal agency at FEMA that recognizes that the Stafford Act calls for these disasters to be state-managed, locally executed, and federally supported. And I'm here to tell all 3 million of my fellow Mississippians that in this particular disaster and those that have come before, our partners at the Federal Emergency Management Agency have done just that. They have been here to meet every request that we have had, and we sincerely appreciate their teamwork and their assistance as we navigate through this. I have said before, and I will say again, I believe in my heart that Mississippi has the best emergency management agency in America. Every one of these men and women that work here and all of our sister agencies throughout state government make me proud to be a Mississippian because they step up. There is no such thing as Monday through Friday, 9 to 4. These jobs are literally 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Many of these same people that we met with earlier this morning were here on Saturday all day. They were here on Sunday all day. And they just do yeoman's work, and I'm proud to call them fellow Mississippians. We do have a special guest here today in Administrator Criswell, who runs all of FEMA, and I'm going to again thank her for being here and turn the floor to her. Madam Administrator.
Thank you very much, Governor. Good morning, everybody. First, on behalf of the President, I just want to say that my heart goes out to the families who have lost loved ones in George County earlier. And I want to thank the first responders. I know that you've had a lot on your plates as of late, and responding to Hurricane Ida just added one more thing. But as a former first responder myself, I know how hard you try to make sure that you're doing everything you can to protect those that are in harm's way. I mean, for this instance, whether that was a road collapse in George County, the flooding in Moss Point, or the tornado in Pearl River County, you know, your dedication and your commitment is well received and appreciated by everybody. While Mississippi fortunately avoided the worst of Ida, the federal family was here ready to respond and support the state and local officials as needed. Under President Biden's pre-disaster emergency declaration for Mississippi, we have been providing federal support to the state for emergency protective measures, including direct federal assistance for all 82 Mississippi counties. We have been working very closely with MEMA as well as our federal partners and pre-positioned life-saving search and rescue assets, ambulances, and temporary power restoration teams in Mississippi counties. Currently, we are moving 2 ambulance strike teams into Harrison County, and we have additional ambulances that have pre-positioned and staged at the fairgrounds in Jackson, ready to support as needed. We also have the U.S. Army Corps of Engineer temporary power team that's staged at Camp Shelby. It's these resources that we worked very hard to get put in place prior to the landfall, and we will be here to continue to support any response efforts or the ongoing recovery that will be needed. We're also in continuous communication with the Mississippi Band of Choctaw Indians to ensure that we can address any needs that they may have that may arise from this event. Those individuals that experience damage and power loss, just want to say you should exercise extreme caution during the recovery phase. What we see is several injuries can happen in the recovery phase. It's a very dangerous time, from structural instability, trees that are unstable, power lines that may be down, heat exhaustion as we start to see the temperatures rise. Please take extra caution to make sure that you're taking care. I'm going to also like to encourage everyone, and what I see across the country is that neighbors helping neighbors. It's always amazing to me how communities bond together, they get out and they look after their neighbors to make sure that they are safe and they have what they need as we begin this recovery. I would like to point out that today marks the start of National Preparedness Month, and so with this storm now passing through, we see several other disturbances in the Atlantic, and we are still in the peak of hurricane season. It is never too late to make sure that you are prepared and have a plan in place for the next disaster that may impact you. You can visit ready.gov to get critical information on what you should put in your plan, the type of documents that you might need, and the steps that you can take to make sure that you, your family, and your pets are taken care of if you needed to evacuate or if you needed to shelter in place. I just, in closing, like to say, Governor, thank you so much for the ongoing partnership. My team here is committed to continue to support you as needed, and thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Administrator Criswell. And at this time, I'm going to turn it over to Mac for an update from Mississippi's Emergency Management Agency.
Thank you, Governor. I want to echo a couple of things that you said earlier, but also cover some of the specifics of what MEMA, and not just MEMA, it is the local emergency management folks in the field, and that's every county and the Mississippi Band of Choctaw Indian. I call it 83 counties, but the band is in 14 counties, so that's a significant population there. And the partnership with those directors and the staff that they have is paramount to the front line and the immediate disasters that we find ourselves in and find ourselves working. So enough of that. And again, rolling into 164 homes impacted so far as we're starting to do our damage assessments. 6 of those destroyed, 42 with major damage. We've got 184 roads affected and 53 bridges that have been impacted by this storm. So we're constantly getting engineers out at the local level. We're checking those to see which ones that we can get back in stable passing, and also how do we need to repair these roads and get that back in. The governor alluded to the power outages, about 30,000. So that means we have reconnected about 100,000 customers, connections out there in the system. That's a pretty big job in about 24 to 30 hours. But we did have some main transmission lines that were down. So want to be just a little patient as those crews are out working. And if you can stay off the roads for another 20 hours, we ought to be able to get this job complete. And then by Friday, we should see the whole state back to current power. We did talk about our shelter population. We talked about we have some Louisiana folks that are with us, and that is what Mississippi does. We are the hospitality state, and I want to remind folks this is a tense time. It is hot. You're going to be out there trying to recover, clean up yards, get stuff. Do not move power lines. Let the professionals do that. And then we are in recovery. Let's get to the next step out of response and recover properly and not lose any life. I want to talk about the BEOC, the business EOC for a moment. We had a significant partner yesterday. I want to give a very good shout out to the Southern Beverage Company. They provided from Anheuser-Busch the entire 18-wheeler load of water about 2 o'clock yesterday. Been coordinating that through the governor's office, and it made it to us yesterday at 2, and we had it distributed at 6 o'clock in Wilkerson County. And ICE as well. And that's going to continue. Those counties, as you look at them in the lower part of the state, we border with Louisiana, that is some of my heavier impacted areas as far as power outages this time. We have other areas that it's roads, bridges, and the infrastructure there. So let's be mindful of that. We're distributing water, food, and ice as necessary today to those counties that have been impacted, working with those local emergency management directors, as well as representatives from the states that have been calling me. So we're out there. We're going to be here. We are not done by any means. Recovery is the longer phase. Preparation and response are two of the most important things we did, Administrator, with your team and with the governor's direction and the Highway Patrol, MDOT, you name it, the Department of Corrections, some of their teams that come out and help us during this, the federal and the state response to assist the local emergency managers when they need it. They are robust, though. They have the supplies and they're ready, but when needed, we step in. Last thing I want to talk about, I've got some priorities. The governor and I discussed them, and our priorities right now are displaced citizens, those without power. We want to get the restoration there and fuel. If we can accomplish those three missions over the next few days, Mississippi is going to come out of this very, very well. Governor, that's all I have at this time.
Thank you, Mac and Administrator Criswell. At this time, I'll open the floor to questions. Scott.
Governor, where do we stand in obviously the beginning stages of getting federal assistance and storm assistance to people who are hoping to get a hand up out of the storm?
Well, we are certainly having those conversations. It was very helpful that the president approved our pre-landfall declaration. I want to, again, that gave us the ability to pre-position assets prior to landfall of the storm. And when I talk about pre-positioning assets, it's everything from people and search and rescue teams to commodities. And so that's when I talk about all of the water and MREs that have been distributed in those affected counties. That is because we were properly able to position both individuals and those commodities so we could get those resources out very, very quickly. In terms of individual assistance for those Louisiana residents that are here, many of whom are in hotels at this time. As I mentioned earlier, you can apply for individual assistance through FEMA by calling 1-800-621-3362 or by visiting disasterassistance.gov. If you have questions in Mississippi, those numbers are 1-888-574-3583. Every individual situation is different, and so we want to help make sure that every single person gets a response. Courtney.
Governor, can any of you speak to these kind of longer-term impacts, the degradation of things? For instance, George County and the situation there happened well after landfall, certainly after the power situation is continuing. And so maybe people are wondering, well, why is the FEMA administrator in Mississippi, it didn't look nearly as bad as Louisiana?
Well, obviously the FEMA administrator, I believe, was in Louisiana yesterday. But the fact is, this particular storm, the biggest challenge in the preparation phase for us is the recognition that this was a very large storm. And as I was showing Administrator Criswell on the map, when we had the failure on Highway 26 in George County, the eye of the storm was somewhere around Oxford. And so this was a very large storm whose bands were whipping south. In that particular case, it appears that we had a situation in which the culvert was just not able to take the amount of water that was there, because if you look at the pictures, which I started seeing at 4:30 a.m. yesterday morning, if you look at the pictures, it looks like a bridge was washed out, but in fact it was the entire roadway that was washed out. And I'll reiterate what the administrator said. Our heart goes out to those individuals that have been affected by that, the automobile accidents that occurred, the 2 fatalities that are confirmed, the individuals and their that are currently in the hospital with very severe injuries. Approximately 10 total have been confirmed injured. We're praying for them and their families, but it is something that we've got to continue to watch. When you get up to 12 inches of rain, as we saw in that coastal region in a very short period of time, rain, an inch or two of rain by itself has somewhat of a relatively small impact. But when you get 12 inches over a very short period of time, just with flooding and other avenues, it's really, really challenging. In terms of the response, I'm going to ask Mac to come up and speak just a little bit to the various things that we're doing in terms of the response at this time. Clearly, we are monitoring very closely the fuel situation. It is both Pascagoula and Collins are functioning and operational. There are because of the refineries that have been knocked out in Louisiana, there are some lines at those 2 facilities. But right now, we're able to get fuel to everyone to every gas station that can take it. One of our challenges as a country, not so much in our state, but as a country, is with the significant number of power outages in Louisiana. There are a lot of fuel stations that could take fuel, but they don't have the power to actually distribute the fuel to individuals. What that is leading to is large number of Louisianians that may have stayed coming to Mississippi to fill up, and so that's creating some longer lines at some of the gas stations. Again, we are running both Pascagoula and Collins basically 24/7, and so we're going to continue to meet those needs, but everyone needs to be patient and recognize that these are challenges that are before us. Mac?
If we look at the process that we find ourselves in right now, individuals, that is life safety is number one. And if you put, someone told me the other day that Mississippi is not scared of hurricanes. They're scared of being without power in 100-degree heat and 90% humidity. So that is going to affect our elderly population, and that's something we be very cognizant about. And so the individual lines that we've got, they were flooded yesterday. We were able to handle every call and even transfer some to Louisiana for them. So to get those initial things handled for life safety is number one priority right now. We will get into a phase where we're looking at infrastructure, roads, bridges, and whatnot. But if I don't save a person, that bridge doesn't really mean a whole lot to me. That is where our focus is, and that's where all of our efforts is headed at this time. I will reiterate that we are distributing forward deploy and talked to the emergency managers last night. We're getting the water out there to them. We're going to get some ice out there to be able to, we're 72 hours now, food's starting to spoil, things of that nature. We're working things at the EOC, SNAP benefits coming up later so we can replace some of that food. So it's all about the individual and the person right now, and we got to have infrastructure to get there, and also looking at fuel. We've been in contact with GOSEF, Louisiana Emergency Management, to say, is there anything we can do for you as far as fuel? What do you need? They've got a lot coming, and the main thrust that I want to tell people, Mississippi wants to help, and we are good at it, but also you can get too much help at one time. We're doing emergency management assistance compact. In other words, probably every firefighter in the state of Mississippi is upset because they want to go. And I get that. I've been there. I've been in Katrina, but I've also been the person that had to receive 10,000 people coming into Mississippi to help. And, well, where are they going to stay? How am I going to feed them? How am I going to take care of them for the next 72 hours when I've got jobs to do? So Louisiana's got, Texas is trying to push to them. We're trying to push to them. All of the Southeastern Conference of Disasters states that I call where we are, slow up just a little bit. Let's do this in an organized manner. We're going to need help to funnel through and be there for the next 60, 90 days. So there's going to be a long request. Be patient. You're going to get there. You're going to be able to do great things, and to find that one home and that one residence that didn't get help initially, that's what we want to do. But let's do it organized. Let's call ahead. Let's go the hub program on the coast, Gulf Coast Hub. Volunteer if you want to, the United Way and others, and let's do it very organized. Don't overwhelm the system, because every responder on the road is another vehicle person on the road as well. So we've got a timing factor here. Louisiana, they've got a great grasp on it, but let's be cognizant that they need help in the short, medium, and long term. Thank you.
Just one point I'd like to make, particularly if you're in Southwest Mississippi, where the bulk of the power outages remain. If you really want to help us, sit down, think about that elderly neighbor that you may have, and just ride over and check on him or her. Just make sure that they are okay. Make sure they have water, because that's the one thing that is certainly concerning right now is the potential for those without power that are elderly, that maybe are shut-ins, without power in this heat, what that could potentially do. So that's an area, and we in Mississippi are really good at this. We know who lives where, and we know who lives down a dirt road, and we know who may need help in a situation like this. We have extra law enforcement assets spread throughout Southwest Mississippi. They're doing their job, but there's no way that we can move, say, a state trooper from Grenada into Wilkinson County and them know who all they need to check on. So we need your help. And so if you are in Southwest Mississippi particularly, but really throughout the state, and you have some power outages in your region, check on that elderly neighbor, check on that person that may have special needs, check on your friends. That's the best way you can be helpful right now to make sure we limit any secondary effects from the storm. Yes, ma'am.
Governor, overall, how many injuries, deaths, rescues did we see? And I know that obviously hospitals are battling COVID-19 patients. Is there going to be any extra assistance in hospitals to help out separate?
Yeah, so I'll answer your last question first. As you know, we secured help from a large number of sources in terms of increased personnel in our hospitals. We have secured the support of close to 1,200 total healthcare workers to be situated in 61 hospitals throughout the state. Of those 1,200, approximately 75% are here. Clearly, the pending hurricane, as well as the staffing challenges seen by all, has slowed that remaining 20 to 25% down, but we'll have even more in those facilities today. So if you look at hospitalizations, and I haven't seen it yet this morning, but we've basically seen a plateauing of hospitalizations from COVID over the last 15 days. Our peak at our initial stage 3, or our third surge, was approximately 1,444 hospitalizations. In this particular surge, we got up to approximately 1,650. We've hovered between 1,500 and 1,600 over the last several days, and so we're monitoring that very closely. I did ask the question this morning and received an answer that as far as we know, 100% of our hospitals throughout Mississippi are on full power. None of them are currently on generator power. We had 3 at one time throughout the different phases of the storm, 3 different that went to some form of generator power. None of them ever went out completely, but we did have backup generators kick on, and so that was a success throughout the storm. We're continuing to monitor where we are from that standpoint. And what was your first question again?
Overall, how many injuries, deaths, and rescues did we see?
So at this time, we are reporting 2 fatalities, 10 injuries, 3 of which are critical. Each of those were from the very unfortunate washout of Highway 26 in George County. We have 20 confirmed water rescues that were conducted statewide, and we believe we probably, as the data continues to come in, that will end up closer to 40 than to 20. But we certainly have 20 confirmed at this time. But we have demobilized all SAR assets at this time. We certainly offered any of those SAR assets to the state of Louisiana, but they are reporting that they have sufficient search and rescue and do not need any of our Mississippi teams at this time. As is often the case in this particular storm, we saw, because we were to the east, the east of the eye of the storm, many of those assets came in from Texas very quickly to help as we were dealing with our response teams, and this is the way these hurricanes go. We step up when we're not hit, and our friends in Texas, our friends in Alabama, our friends in Florida, and all over the country. I've spoken to governors from all over the country in the last 24 hours offering their assistance, and we appreciate it very, very much. Bailey.
Emily Pettis from the AP has a question.
Hi, thank you. I have a question for Administrator Criswell. This is in regard to hard-hit areas in Louisiana. How is FEMA helping to get food and water distributed to the hardest-hit communities?
Thank you for that question. The state is setting up points of distribution across the state in the hardest-hit communities. We pre-position food and water in our staging areas ahead of the storm, and we are now pushing that to the state's points of distribution as they identify where they need it most.
Scott.
I don't want to jump ahead. I know someone else is going. Regarding American Red Cross and other benefits, what are the process for getting those types of benefits to people who are in our area that are looking for some help?
Well, I'm going to, we are fortunate to have Gail, the president and CEO of American Red Cross, here today, and I'm going to give her the opportunity to answer that question.
Thank you, Governor. So right now, we're all about getting people sheltered. That's better. Right now, we're all about getting people in shelters and also fanning out into the community, doing damage assessment. We have about 75 feeding trucks that we're sending into all the impacted areas from Hurricane Ida, and we'll be able to get up to 20,000 meals a day. And in addition, we're also providing supplies like cleanup kits and bleach and mops and things that you need to muck out your homes. Once that phase is over, assuming the general public is generous like they always are, we'd love to also provide financial assistance. So, that'll be dependent upon whether or not we get the right number of donations.
Someone wants American Red Cross help. How do they get it?
So to get help, you can call 1-800-RED Cross. You can also go on our website to find out where we have shelters. You can also use our app to see where we have shelters. And if you want to help the American Red Cross, you can always volunteer. We always need additional volunteers. You can donate blood or you can make a financial donation. And again, you can use our website, 1-800-RED Cross, or you can call, redcross.org, or you can call our 800 number, 1-800-RED Cross. Thank you.
Again, I want to thank everyone for being here today. Particularly thank everybody in Mississippi who has given a lending hand over the last 96 hours or a little more. We've got more work before us, but we have made great progress. So thank y'all and God bless.